Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. Former Liberal MP Jody Wilson-Raybould's new book is out. It contains certain allegations that Liberal leader Justin Trudeau is not happy about. The federal election is now just a week away, and today we hear from the Lethbridge NDP candidate who explains how her party plans on paying for universal pharmacare. And freedom rallies drew thousands of protesters across the province. We hear what some of their biggest concerns were.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. With the release of former Liberal MP Jody Wilson-Raybould's new tell-all book called Indian in the Cabinet and some of the allegations within that book, Liberal leader Justin Trudeau went on the defensive on the campaign trail. He says he did not want Wilson-Raybould to lie about SNC-Lavalin.
I did not want her to lie. I would never do that. I would never ask her that. That is simply not true.
Do you understand how your conversation with her may have left her with the impression that you wanted her to lie or mislead people?
No, I don't.
Can you elaborate on that? Why do you think she got that impression?
I'm not going to get into those conversations. I will say, quite frankly, this is an issue that was discussed and picked apart extensively 2 years ago in committees, in testimonies, in analyses. It's unfortunate when two people who share a very similar vision for building a better future end up falling out, end up going in separate ways.
Canadians no longer believe Justin Trudeau. He ran on sunny ways, promises, a different style approach to politics, he said. We saw with how he treated Jody Wilson-Raybould, how he put the interests of a corporate entity lobbying about a judicial proceeding ahead of doing the right thing for a cabinet minister. It's a reminder that Mr. Trudeau will say and do anything to win and never has any intention of actually putting Canadians and the needs of the country first.
The federal NDP has announced their candidate for Lethbridge. It is Elaine Perez. Now, we recently had candidate Perez on Bridge City News chatting about a wide range of issues heading into the September 20th election, including her party's plan for universal pharmacare and where the money would come from.
We want to implement or rework provincial budget to, we want to fund at least 20% more, because currently I believe the federal government funds 30% into this kind of healthcare program, and trying to get people without insurance to be able to afford their meds, keep pharmacies regulated, because some people don't have a choice.
Catch the full interview with Lethbridge NDP candidate Elaine Perez coming up in the second half of our program. The Alberta municipal election is coming up on October the 18th. Current Lethbridge City Councillor Blaine Hagan is gunning for the mayoral chair. Hagan says he has a plan to help address the doctor shortage here in our city.
I've started to create a special advisory committee that's comprised of several doctors and leading medical professionals and stakeholders in the community that are going to help me to develop a comprehensive plan for attracting and retaining doctors and other medical professionals here to the community.
Mayoral candidate Blaine Hagan will also address the controversy surrounding where he's receiving funding during his campaign. That Q&A is coming up after Business News. RCMP in Southern Alberta are warning people against tampering with election signs. Mounties and Airdrie say many signs in the region have either been damaged, destroyed, or stolen. They say if the offenders are identified, they could face criminal charges. A number of freedom of choice rallies were held over the weekend in both Calgary and Edmonton. Thousands, including first responders and healthcare workers, were protesting the vaccine mandates for municipal, provincial, and federally regulated employees. Many held signs reading "No mandatory vaccines, freedom to choose, and freedom of choice." A number of vehicles drove by with drivers honking in support of the protesters.
They're made it mandatory as of September 8th. At this point, I do not have travel privileges. Those were taken away September 9th. And starting October 30th, if we're not voluntarily vaccinated, I will be laid off October 31st till April 2022. If I get vaccinated anytime between now and April, I can have my job back. If I don't, I could possibly be terminated. They will look at that come April 2022.
A similar freedom rally is planned for Lethbridge in front of City Hall at 1 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon. Protests against COVID-19 public health measures were also taking place today at various hospitals across the country, including several here on the prairies. They include the Foothills Medical Centre in Calgary, the Royal Alex in Edmonton, and the Winnipeg Health Sciences Centre. In response to the protests, Alberta Premier Jason Kenney released this statement. The right to peaceful protest is both constitutionally protected and a cherished Canadian value, but that right is not without limits. Today's protests must in no way obstruct the important operations of our hospitals, including the arrival and departure of emergency vehicles and workers. In Alberta, local law enforcement is fully empowered to enforce the law in a timely fashion. A cougar that was 6 feet in length was euthanized after it jumped a 6-foot fence from an alley in the Uplands area of Lethbridge and into a residential backyard on Sunday. Fish and Wildlife were called, but according to police, did not immediately respond. Lethbridge police were also called and saw that the large cat was a threat to public safety, so with a single shot, an officer put the animal down. Fortunately, no one was hurt in the incident. Fish and Wildlife then arrived and took the cougar away to be examined. The Lethbridge Police Services Victim Witness Service Unit has been serving the community for 30 years to deliver 24-hour-a-day victim crisis support. The unit provides crisis care for people who've been victims of trauma and abuse. The unit has had close to 600 volunteers working over 41,000 case files. The unit has committed close to 480,000 hours of time as well. The group's program manager, Catherine Pooley, says they're now looking for even more volunteers to help out.
And we're looking to hire about 20 people. It is all volunteer work, but it gives them an opportunity to learn a lot of skills that would help in terms of crisis support, in terms of knowing how to support someone when they need it. So we often see criminal justice students, we see psychology students, we see people that just want to give back to their community, and there's no specific requirements to be able to do it other than a criminal record check and a valid license, but it's an opportunity to really connect with an incredible team of people. We have about 60 people on our team, and to help give back to the community and be there when someone needs you.
Applications for volunteers are being accepted until October the 15th. United Way of Lethbridge in southwestern Alberta celebrating a special milestone anniversary this week. United Way Lethbridge has been around for 80 years helping and serving in our community. As Carson Marsouk reports now, the organization kicked off its anniversary with a flag-raising ceremony outside of City Hall on Monday morning.
The United Way of Lethbridge in southwestern Alberta has been serving Lethbridge and the surrounding area for 80 years, and to celebrate, a United Way flag was raised at City Hall as a way to say thank you to the community.
We can't do the work that we do, we can't fund the programs that we fund without support from the community. We are entirely ran on donations from the community, and so it's incredibly important right now. I'm recognizing the needs and knowing that those needs are increasing due to COVID.
The United Way got its start in Lethbridge as a community chest back in 1941 as a way to address the funding needs of the community after the outbreak of the Second World War. Organizations in Lethbridge needing to fundraise came together, raising just over $56,000.
So exciting to be part of this. I mean, like again, 80 years, there's a huge legacy behind our team today, and we're just so proud to be a part of this story and to see it continue as we go in the future as well.
The need for community support has increased over the past year and a half due to the ongoing pandemic. Executive Director with United Way of Lethbridge, Janelle Marietta, says it's been working with the Government of Canada to provide funding for a wide range of services and support for the community.
Funding goes towards poverty reduction, building strong communities, and supporting children and youth in our community. Obviously with COVID, there has been a huge increase in supports that are needed in the community, whether it be food access, whether it be emergency shelters, just to support people and make sure that they're feeling part of the community and feeling supported.
As part of the anniversary celebrations, City Hall will be lit up in red at the end of the week. For Bridge City News, I'm Carson Marsouk.
Students and campus community members at the University of Lethbridge will now be required to show proof of vaccination before entering campus. Rapid testing will no longer be accepted as an alternative to vaccination, except for campus community members who cannot be vaccinated based on medical or other protected grounds. U of L President Mike Mann says the new announcement is another step to keep everyone safe.
Our number one goal is to keep our campus open for the entire year. If you talk to our students on this campus that are now all here. They are so excited to be back. The energy on campus, the enthusiasm, the happy people just underscores how important it is for us to be open. Secondly, I will say that we also see this as part of our contribution to the broader community's need to have greater vaccination.
9 other post-secondary institutions in Alberta will also be following suit, including the University of Alberta, the University of Calgary, and Medicine Hat College. With COVID-19 cases rising in our province, officials at Lethbridge College have decided to cancel their annual Coulee Fest event. The large festival was supposed to take place September 18th. In a release, college president and CEO Paula Burns said, "We recognize that Alberta's healthcare system is strained, and we do not want to take the chance of adding more cases to the system. We are a tight-knit community and want to support our healthcare workers, many of whom are our alumni." Coulee Fest is an annual event bringing students and alumni together with lots of family entertainment, food trucks, and a showcase of all that the Lethbridge College has to offer. The 11th annual Word on the Street Festival is set to take place starting September 14th. The Lethbridge Public Library will host a variety of events virtually for everyone to enjoy. Elizabeth Hegret, the Manager of Community and Economic Development for the library, says there are close to 30 authors lined up from across Canada for this very special event.
We are kicking off tomorrow, Tuesday, with our first event. It's an evening panel of comics for kids and teens. We've got another comics event on Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday are our big core days for the festival. Friday morning is our children's author program. The teen lineup is Friday afternoon, and Saturday are our main adult author events. And on Saturday, we're also running some limited in-person activities.
There will be food trucks and outdoor story time for kids as well on September 18th. Next week, the library will focus on the Indigenous Oral Knowledge and Tradition program. Lethbridge residents 55 and over have the option for more affordable housing. Avenue Living has opened up a new facility called Applewood to support independent living for seniors. The Regional Vice President for Avenue Living, Graham Mitchell, says this is a great opportunity for mature Lethbridge residents who are looking for more affordable living situations.
So the location is right in the downtown area. And it is also, so it's near all major amenities, pharmacies, grocery stores, restaurants, coffee shops, banks. And then the building itself is very comfortable for seniors living. It's equipped with an elevator that will take you right up to your units. And it's also, all the units are nice big units, they're open. They have handlebars in all the showers and washrooms that are safely equipped for seniors. And so the building is just in a great location.
Mitchell says Applewood is currently accepting applications online to join the waitlist. New legislation comes into effect this week in Saskatchewan that supports victims fleeing sexual violence. Beginning Wednesday, victims will be allowed to end fixed-term leases by providing 28 days' notice to a landlord. Justice Minister Gordon Wyant says leaving a home can be complicated and nothing should prevent a victim from being able to get out of a very dangerous situation. Manitoba PC backbencher Shannon Martin launched his campaign for the party's leadership. Martin, who is the MLA for McPhillips, made the announcement in Oak Bluff just outside of Winnipeg. He's one of at least 3 who are seeking the leadership following the resignation of Premier Brian Pallister. The deadline to enter the race is Wednesday, and the winner will be decided October 30th by mail-in ballot. Hurricane Larry hit eastern Newfoundland over the weekend, leaving the streets of St. John's littered with broken branches and blown debris. A roof was even ripped off of an elementary school. As officials assess the damage, St. John's Mayor Danny Breen says it could have been worse and urged many people to stay home.
Hurricane Larry caused a significant amount of tree and property damage throughout our city. We're fully staffed today, and our crews have been addressing priority areas, which Deputy City Manager Windsor will discuss later. On our roads, lanes are reduced on many streets due to debris. Anyone who has to walk in a vehicle today should be particularly cautious, especially in areas where pedestrian walk lights may be out of service or where construction and cleanup work is continuing. City crews continue to assess damaged traffic signals, and several intersections are not operational at this time due to power outages. In order to get this cleanup completed as effectively and quickly as possible, we're asking residents to avoid travel unless for essential reasons.
U.S. President Joe Biden called for unity over the weekend and honored the victims of the 9/11 attacks. September 11th was the 20th anniversary of the terrorist attacks, which claimed around 3,000 lives.
To the families of the 2,977 people from more than 90 nations killed on September 11th, 2001 in New York City, Arlington, Virginia, and Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and the 1,000 more who were injured. America and the world commemorate you and your loved ones, the pieces of your soul. We honor all those who risked and gave their lives in the minutes, hours, months, and years afterwards. The firefighters, police officers, EMTs and construction workers, and doctors and nurses, faith leaders, service members, veterans, and all of the everyday people who gave their all to rescue, recover, and rebuild. But it's so hard, whether it's the first year or the 20th. Children have grown up without parents, and parents have suffered without children.
Chaplains with the Billy Graham Ministry have been attending to the needs of those families who lost loved ones in the recent Tennessee flooding. Waverly resident Shannon Gannon shares what it was like in the midst of such a disaster and how the Billy Graham team has impacted his community.
I really thought I may die today. It just happened so fast. There's no prep time. There's no, what happened here in Waverly, you didn't have prep time. You were a victim of it instantly. Me and my wife, Myra, we come out of it fine, but there's 20 folks in the community that lost their lives, even some small children, and it's just heartbreaking. It's just heartbreaking. So the Billy Graham chaplains have come to the house and just been great for myself and my wife. There is that need for that spiritual help.
I pray for Myra right now, Lord, as she is struggling with just the emotions that she has felt.
We've talked and prayed, and it's just a great ministry that the Billy Graham organization is delivering. And as a follower of Christ, my thought is there ought to be 100 boots on the ground of these blue Billy Graham shirts walking around. And it's just, like, I can't say it enough, it's greatly appreciated, greatly appreciated.
We've been amazed to see what God is doing here in Humphreys County and Waverly, Tennessee since we've been here the last few days. But God is faithful, and we have an army of chaplains coming in. So we've got more boots on the ground next week, and be able to touch lives of the hurting people here in Waverly and Humphreys County. And we just are anticipating God to do mighty things as we share the hope and love of Jesus Christ.
Thank God for so many ministries with big hearts. A lot of rain in our region has now left, and we're returning to more like summer-like conditions with lots of warm temperatures. A full look at the weather forecast is coming up. It is nice seeing the leaves change color at this time of year in southwestern Alberta, but that also means fall and cooler temperatures are on the way. Tonight we're expecting a few clouds with a low near 5. Tuesday partly cloudy with a high of 21. Wednesday a low pressure system returns, bringing clouds and showers and a high of only 15. Thursday mainly cloudy with a high again near 15 degrees. Friday a mixture of sun and cloud and a high of 20. Not a bad weekend is shaping up so far. Sunshine and 19 degrees for Saturday, clouds mixed with sunshine and 17 on Sunday. Checking the almanac, the average high for this time of year is 20 degrees and an average low of 5. The highest temperature on this date was set back in 1996 at 31 degrees, and the record low was a chilly -5 in 1970. Sunrise was at 7:05, sunset at 7:50. Let's see how tomorrow's shaping up across the country now. Expect rain and 16 in both Victoria and Vancouver, BC. A mixture of sun and cloud and 20 for Calgary. Increasing cloudiness and 17 degrees for Edmonton. Mainly sunny and 21 for both Regina and Saskatoon. Sunshine and 22 is on tap for Winnipeg on Tuesday. A 30% chance of showers and 27 for Toronto. Rain and 22 degrees for Ottawa. Partly cloudy and 24 degrees for Montreal. In Atlantic Canada, expect lots of sunshine and 20 for Fredericton, New Brunswick. Partly cloudy and 20 degrees as well for Halifax, Nova Scotia. Just a few clouds and 15 for Charlottetown, PEI. And in St. John's, Newfoundland, expect a few clouds and a high of 19 degrees on Tuesday. Amazon Canada is going on a major hiring spree. The e-commerce giant plans to hire 15,000 new warehouse and distribution workers this fall to support its ongoing expansion plans in Canada. It is also boosting the starting wage for its frontline hourly employees and giving current workers a raise. Amazon has 25,000 full and part-time workers at its 46 warehouse, logistics, and delivery facilities in 5 provinces. 2 movie theater titans were in court today in what could be a multi-billion-dollar test case for pandemic-era litigation. Toronto-based Cineplex is seeking to recoup $2.18 billion in damages from Cineworld Group after the UK theatre giant scrapped its planned purchase of the Canadian cinema chain. Cineworld walked away from the December 2019 takeover deal amid strict lockdown measures in June of last year. They were alleging material adverse effects and breaches by Cineplex. Cineplex called Cineworld's decision to terminate the deal nothing more than a case of buyer's remorse. The legal battle will hinge on Cineworld arguing it had the right to terminate the deal without payment because Cineplex strayed from the ordinary course when it deferred its accounts payable at the pandemic start. The board of Kansas City Southern is now backing a $31 billion U.S. takeover offer from Canadian Pacific Railway. It says CP's offer is superior to the $33.6 billion offer from Canadian National Railway. Both offers are in American dollars and include the assumption of debt. CN has 5 business days to sweeten its offer, which, unlike CP's, does not allow it to use a voting trust to complete the deal. That allows KCS shareholders to be paid before an American regulatory body completes its review of the proposed takeover. Now, here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX was up 33 points on the day to finish at 20,666. The Dow was up 261 points to finish at 34,869. The S&P 500 was up 10 points to 4,468. The Nasdaq was down 9 points to 15,105. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up 73 cents to $70.45 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 29 cents to $5.23 US. Gold was even to finish at $17.9375 US an ounce. Also no change for silver, which closed at $23.74 US an ounce. Wheat is at $400 per metric ton. Barley is at $396. Canola, $864. And corn is at $427 per metric ton. Live cattle were down $1.15 to $122.28. Feeder cattle were down $2.28 to $155.45. Lean hogs were down $1.68 to $80.78. And the Canadian dollar was down slightly over the past 24 hours to finish at $79.06 US.
Recapping one of our top stories this hour, a number of freedom of choice rallies were held over the weekend in both Calgary and Edmonton. Thousands, including first responders and healthcare workers, were protesting the vaccine mandates for municipal, provincial, and federally regulated employees. Many held signs reading "No mandatory vaccines, freedom to choose, and freedom of choice." A number of vehicles drove by, with drivers honking in support of the protesters. A similar freedom rally is being planned for Lethbridge in front of City Hall, 1 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon. The federal election is coming up on September the 20th. Now, coming up next, we're going to hear from the Lethbridge NDP candidate, Elaine Perez, to see where she stands on a wide range of issues. That informative interview is on deck. But first, here's a look what's happening in and around your community.
Here's today's Bridge City News Community Calendar. Get out and explore nature. The Helen Schuler Nature Center is offering guided 1-hour field trips for all ages. Visit lethbridge.ca/things to do. Click on Nature Center and follow the events page, where you'll find a list of featured tours that will introduce you to amazing plants and animals found right here in Lethbridge. Cost is $35. Book online for your tour today. And that's your Bridge City News Community Calendar.
The 2021 federal election is fast approaching, and today we have the opportunity to discuss the issues with the Lethbridge NDP candidate, Elaine Perez. Elaine, welcome to Bridge City News.
Hi there.
Hi, so let's talk about, first of all, the timing of this election. We're still in the midst of a pandemic. There are wildfires burning across many regions of the country. Many people feel that the timing of this election by the Liberals is very poor. Would you agree with that statement, and if so, why?
I would say so. It was definitely very rushed, the way this election was called. Definitely puts all the other parties at a disadvantage starting so soon. And it is kind of a hard task to tackle because of the pandemic. A lot of constituents are very worried about their safety, trying to get out to the polls. And it's hard to engage with a lot of the folks who live out here because, you don't want to go to their doors too often, or you don't know who's uncomfortable with you showing up during a canvass. So there's that challenge right there. But I think everyone's main priority during this election is trying to engage voters and trying to get everyone out as much as possible.
So as you're door knocking, Elaine, across Lethbridge here, what are some of the big issues that constituents are sharing with you?
Definitely a lot of affordable housing. I've been getting a lot of talk about what plans we have for affordable childcare. A lot of people are finding it really difficult to get back into the workforce when schools are. It's really hard to know when schools are closing, when schools are opening up again. A lot of people are worried about how expensive it is to get good quality childcare. You know, for a working person, for the average household, they can go up to $2,000 a month. And we're trying to propose at least like a $10 a day childcare program, at least, to try and get, try and get as many people back into their jobs.
Affordable childcare, and let's touch as well, like you mentioned earlier, on affordable housing. Many millennials, many Canadians who want to buy a house for the first time don't even have the 5% down. House prices are going through the roof, pardon the pun, but it's not just for a mortgage, but for rent as well. So what's your plan when it comes to affordable housing?
The NDP has made a plan in trying to partner with municipalities all across the country and trying to build over 500,000 new complexes and trying to keep the rates down. They want to partner with other organizations to try and keep mortgages as low as possible and try to keep to the 30-year plan with low monthly costs for new families or first-time buyers and those kinds of things. I think a lot of the problem is a lot of houses people are trying to rent out, but they stay vacant, and we're running out of other places to sell out. And a lot of student, like especially Lethbridge, which is a big, dense student population, I find like there should be more policies in place about, trying to keep the rent as low as possible for all the new students and trying not to upcharge them, even though they know they can.
Now, healthcare is also a big election topic each and every time we go to the polls. Now, Elaine, your party would like to implement some kind of universal pharmacare package, providing not only healthcare, but also universal prescription drug coverage and dental coverage. Can you flesh that out for us a little bit more? And how would we pay for that?
Yeah. So because of the, we as Canadians pride ourselves on universal health care, but our health care doesn't include dental work, it doesn't include optometry or your prescription drugs. And those can be very costly if you're someone who needs to be getting a prescription monthly, even bi-weekly. We want to implement or rework provincial budgets to we want to fund at least 20% more, because currently I believe the federal government funds 30% into this kind of healthcare program, and trying to get people without insurance to be able to afford their meds, keep pharmacies regulated. Because some people don't have a choice. If they don't have great insurance coverage, if they don't have any benefits, paying for their monthly medications or even a yearly dentist visit is really something they'd have to pay out of pocket. But that's all part of healthcare. So it's not very universal if only some people can get access to that.
Now, theoretically speaking, that sounds pretty good. We all want better health care and make it more affordable. But at the end of the day, who's going to pay for that? Is it the average Canadian taxpayer? Or is, like your leader, Jagmeet Singh, says, we're going to tax the ultra-rich? Where's that money going to come from?
I would have to agree with Jagmeet Singh. Many corporations during this pandemic did profit a lot more than the average person. The average working person maybe actually lost money or even lost their jobs during this pandemic. It should be fair that they get a luxury tax or, don't evade any taxes, or they are getting, they're paying their fair share of taxes to help out the working class of Canada. For them, it's a right now we treat healthcare as a privilege when it should be a right.
Elaine, with the COVID pandemic, the Liberal government has made certain decisions as to how they're going to go about implementing restrictions and lockdowns. Do you agree with how this was handled, or does the NDP maybe have a better plan?
I definitely think that the Canadian government should have worked more closely with provincial governments during this pandemic. Right now, a lot of the issues we're seeing vary province to province. Even living in Alberta right now, lots of people have things to say about that. I think the lockdowns were necessary. However, I don't believe that the Liberal government gave any Canadians any support during this time, or any, they didn't do the right thing the first time. They had to be asked to do so. I felt that even the support they did offer excluded a lot of people during this pandemic and gave no one a choice but to work under these conditions. I would think that if we were to implement a lockdown, say another wave, a big wave were to come back, I would really trust that the NDP and myself to fight for those better supports to protect all Canadians and all residents of Canada.
You're right. Originally, a lot of people did fall through the cracks, including a lot of self-employed people. They're saying, what about us when it comes to payments to support us here? Now, what are your thoughts on vaccine passports? It's a hot button topic right now. Many Canadians are for it. A lot are against the vaccine passports. What are your thoughts?
This one is a very tricky question to answer, but I will say I am for vaccine passports. Statistically and scientifically, we know the vaccine is the best way to go about handling this pandemic. It protects a lot of people. It's only fair that if we want to reopen and try and get back to what life was before, and we want to gather, we want to go shopping or to restaurants or concerts, those who go should be either wearing masks, or you got to prove that you're vaccinated, for everyone's safety, including your own. It's not like against anyone, and I think that would inspire more people to get vaccinated. And I think the other issue is that there's just a lot of misinformation going out there about vaccinations, and I hope that it's something we can try and remedy in the future.
Do you think that the vaccine should be mandatory for all Canadians, or should it still be a person's choice? Like my body, my choice?
I do think it should be a choice. Just because anything mandatory, does make a lot of people, including myself, a little hesitant. But either way, I really do believe that people will make the right choice given the right information. Right now, there is, like I said earlier, there's a lot of misinformation going out about the vaccine. And I think that is the main reason why people are very hesitant about it. And I think the mandatory vaccine would also isolate those who are actually medically exempt from the vaccine, and that would cause more stigma against unvaccinated people. But yeah, the biggest issue here is, I think, the misinformation and trying to get the right information out so people can make that right choice for themselves and others around them.
Now, federal spending during the pandemic has left Canada with a debt that is growing by over $424 million a day. What kind of monetary policy will your party follow in order to not only create jobs, but boost the economy without placing unmanageable financial burden on future generations?
This one is also a very tricky question to answer. However, a lot of the policies the NDP are, really excited to put forward include trying to create a new green economy or trying to make a low carbon economy, which would open a lot of jobs. This means, trying to hire those who usually work in other industries into using those skills towards building green infrastructure or low carbon infrastructure emissions, and trying to change a lot of municipalities' power grids to maybe a more renewable energy power source. They've also put in initiatives and trying to help out more small businesses, because small businesses are what make small municipalities like Lethbridge, their economy, it boosts their economy in that sense. And right now, a lot of small businesses are starting to suffer the consequences of the many lockdowns and restrictions. And so I really believe in the federal government having their involvement and being more involved with supporting small businesses in the future.
Now, Elaine, there have been many cases of churches clashing with governments over the right to gather for worship during the COVID-19 lockdowns. Concern has been expressed that there's really a double standard. One rule for the big box stores and much more stringent restrictions for the small business owners and the churches. How do you see the issue of religious freedom during COVID-19 pandemic?
I don't really see an issue at all. During the restrictions and the lockdowns, no one was told they were no longer free to practice or believe in any religion they're affiliated with. They were still free to do so. During that time as well, a lot of different provincial governments were, stating ideas and what they can do to congregate in a safe manner. No one right now is being infringed upon. You're still free to congregate online, outdoors. You're still free to do all of that type of stuff. Sometimes you can practice with your families or your small groups of your social cohort. There's many different safe ways to congregate and practice your religion during this pandemic. It was only asked that you did not meet in large groups indoors.
Now, on the environmental front, Elaine, many Southern Albertans are feeling the pinch and the impact of the carbon tax, especially a lot of our farmers here in southwestern Alberta. Is a carbon tax really necessary to protect the environment, or is there a much more effective way? What are your thoughts?
I believe that the carbon tax was a step in the right direction, but if there is no plan to implement using that tax dollar, then it is rendered pretty much useless. I believe the NDP has plans, which I've stated before, in trying to commit to lowering Canada's carbon emissions in the future. Using that tax dollar, we can also try and start laying ground and infrastructure that would benefit small municipalities as well as rural areas with renewable energy sources. The tax dollar would create more jobs, opening up more opportunities for people to renew their skills and apply it into the renewable energy sector.
Elaine Perez is the federal NDP candidate for Lethbridge. Elaine, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you. It was good to chat with you.
The race to become the mayor of Lethbridge is well underway, and today we're chatting with Blaine Hagan, who's a Lethbridge City Councillor who's hoping to become the new mayor of Lethbridge on October the 18th. Blaine, welcome back to Bridge City News.
Thank you, Hal, for having me.
Now, first of all, why don't you share a little bit with our viewers who Blaine Hagan really is and why you decided to run for mayor here in the Windy City?
Well, you know what? It's always been an interest of mine to serve the community, serve many different agencies that I've worked with over the years. And so service has, again, been top notch for me in my life. And so I just thought it's something that I would like to continue to give back to the community.
Now, one of your top priorities is to ensure that Lethbridge is a safe community for families. What do you see as being the biggest crime issues that really need to be reined in?
Oh boy, safety is, as we know, Hal, it's a huge issue here in Lethbridge. And I mean, I think one of the obvious answers to combat some of the safety concerns that we have in the community is the reinvestment in our Lethbridge police services that provide the resources that they obviously need to continue to serve our community and to keep that safe level to what everybody is expecting. And I think it's extremely important that we do have the policing that's necessary. And I'm sure you'll know that here a couple of years ago, or just last year, we talked about reducing the police budget. And then in the last CIP, I did not approve that. I did not raise my hand for that because I think it's important that we do have policing in our community, and a reduction just means a reduction of feet on the street and more concerns coming in. And so for that reason, I think policing is a top priority on my agenda going forward, and to be able to work with my colleagues to make sure that we have the adequate policing to cover the concerns that we have in our community.
Now, $1 million was recently taken out of the police budget. Would you consider putting that money back in?
Absolutely. That's one of my top priorities, is to work with my council colleagues to make sure that we can get that reinvested into our police service for sure.
Blaine, Lethbridge gained national attention over the last couple of years with the opioid crisis and the debate over the supervised consumption site, which is one of the busiest in all of Canada before it was shut down. Some residents want to see the return of another SCS in our city, while others prefer to see investment in recovery programs. How do you see things?
Well, ultimately, I guess it comes as an elected official. I'm accountable to the people. So perhaps, I guess, a number one issue I've heard at the doors when I've been out knocking, as well as from friends and colleagues and emails, etc., is issues related to the SES. We know the opioid crisis has been around for a while, and it's in most communities, but it's something that we can definitely reduce the strain on our police service as we provide the services that are needed to combat this incredible crisis that we have out there today. And people want and need the treatment, and absolutely should receive it. Now, not everybody wants these treatment. We need to have those individuals that are experts in the field recommending the services that they need to be able to return to society and to recover from their illness, which is the addiction.
Now, a lot of times with the opioid crisis and drug addiction, you find a lot of homelessness issues here in the city. How would you actually work with the province to address the homeless issue here in Lethbridge?
Yes, it's extremely important that we understand that housing is a provincial mandate, and through the community here in Lethbridge, myself and my colleagues, we need to advocate on behalf of those individuals in our community to get the funding necessary. So if it's either provincial or sometimes there's federal funding as well that comes for that, it's extremely important that we have the relationships with both the provincial government and the federal government so that we can actually advocate on behalf of those individuals in our community. We do need more housing in the community. We know that. I sit on Lethbridge Housing Association Authority, and I've been there now for 8 years and over 5 years as the chair. And I see the importance of housing, but the shortage that we currently have. So we need to work with our provincial partners and the federal partners to make sure that we get the housing that's necessary in our community.
Now, Blaine, speaking of a shortage, let's talk about the shortage of doctors here in our city. So many have either left Lethbridge altogether or they're even leaving the province. How are we going to work with the province to retain and attract more doctors to the city of Lethbridge?
That's a huge issue here in Lethbridge, Hal, and so much so that it became one of my major campaign pillars, to be honest with you. I've started to create a special advisory committee that's comprised of several doctors and leading medical professionals and stakeholders in the community that are going to help me to develop a comprehensive plan for attracting and retaining doctors and other medical professionals here to the community. Now, we need to understand that this is a provincial, health is provincial, but that doesn't mean that we can't work together with those professionals here in our community. And I know there's one particular doctor I spoke with. He's recruited 12 doctors to the community. So although this is provincial, we can work with these doctors and as they continue to advocate for our community and bring in other doctors into the community. Because I know that my wife is in the medical field, and it's not just doctors. There's a lot of nurses that are leaving, and a shortage of nurses. And she's a registered nurse here at the hospital, and we hear about it all the time. They're overworked. There's a shortage of nurses, and so again, it's everyone in the medical field that is they're getting burnt out. And I think that pandemic had a big part to play in that for sure.
Now let's talk a bit about the pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic caused a lot of division in our city, just as it has in many other major centers. If COVID-19 erupts again this fall and winter, how would you go about handling things here in the city? Will we bring back the mandatory face covering to be used in public buildings?
I've always said that my plans are to be informed by the experts. I'm not a doctor, and sitting around that table, there's no doctors that I'm aware of around council, that horseshoe. And so I think we need to rely on the experts on this. And so, of course, that would be Dr. Dina Hinshaw and her team, and we need to listen to their advice.
Blaine, there's always talk about how we need a third bridge here in our city, but of course, that's a pretty big budget item. What are your thoughts on how and when that will actually happen?
It's been a topic of conversation throughout many different elections, Hal. We know that. And it's something that is needed. We've heard that once the community gets to, that 40,000 people on the west side, that it's going to be needed. And we're there now. Now, the concern, obviously, my concern has been in the past is this is a huge tax increase for the community. And it's something that I don't think that we could, I know that I would not support a huge tax increase that has been brought forward. But there's ways to think outside the box with that. If we work with our provincial and federal partners, I look out to Quebec, and I was doing some research on how many different bridges that they're receiving. Where's our fair deal on this, right? And so both from a federal and provincial government level, we need to get that funding for our community. And there's also other opportunities. I've worked over the past couple of years with some other options, which is thinking outside the box. And I'm going to have more to share on that. And a way that it won't be a tax burden for our community, but we'll be able to get this third bridge, and something that is drastically needed.
Now, as Lethbridge continues to grow, we have over 100,000 people here in our city. Our transit service becomes even more important. The city of Lethbridge is changing over to its CityLink network. Apparently, the goal is to decrease ride time while offering adequate services for users in low ridership areas. Can you really explain to our viewers how that works?
Well, we're trying to get that the transportation. Anybody that wants to take transit, we want to get them to the point that they want to get to as quick or as relatively quick as a vehicle. Now, we know that's not going to happen. Transit is picking up different passengers along the route. So just to make it somewhat quicker for people to be able to take that mode of transit as opposed to their vehicle. Now, unfortunately, we know that Lethbridge has got quite the urban sprawl, and it's something that it is a car community. And I know we drive around, and I hear it all the time that the buses are empty. And, we don't know if we see them at the beginning of the route or at the end of the route, but we know that the buses are not full at all times, and rarely are they. And so looking at ways to become more efficient with the way that we do it, and we're doing some of that now, but we need to continually look at that, because transit is the number 3 burden on taxation right now, next to fire and police. And so we want to make sure we're always looking for efficiencies there. If it's smaller buses, if it's if the routes are better and quicker, so that people do want to take transit, those are some of the things we need to look at. And it's something that I sat on Canadian Urban Transit Association here for almost 8 years, and hearing some of the different efficiencies that people realize in other communities. I'd like to bring those here and share them with our administration. And I have over the time, and we have made some changes, but I think there's a lot more to be made. And the cost is just far too high, in my opinion, for transit in our community.
Now, most cities want to have a thriving downtown core, but the challenge with that is, how do we do this with the safety and crime concerns and ample parking at the same time? What's your plan to make the downtown core more attractive for businesses and consumers?
We talk continually about downtown, Hal, and something that I do want to mention, that it's downtown we want to thrive, but we also want other areas in our community to thrive. So I kind of put it as business in general throughout our community, because we do want to drive it downtown. But we have put in so much money into our downtown core, and it's not that I'm saying let's put good money after bad. There's been some great investment, but we need to attack the the concerns that are limiting some of this. And I would say that is the crime and some of the vagrancy that happens in our downtown area. So if we don't address the root of this, we have been talking about revitalizing our downtown for as long as I can remember. And if we don't get to the root of the concern, which I believe, and a lot of others that have spoken to me believe, it's the crime and the vagrancy that is downtown. So if it's social concerns, et cetera, this is something we need to address prior. And I know I'm sorry for going a little bit off on this, but there's some frustration from a couple of business owners I talked to yesterday that aren't in the downtown. And they said, well, you're always talking about downtown area. What about other areas of the community? We have the same issues and concerns, and you keep dumping funding into downtown. So I did want to veer a little bit, I'm sorry on Hal, but it's addressing the main concern, and that's safety for those that want to shop downtown or shop anywhere else in our community. We need to make sure that they feel safe, and I think that's going to make a big change for sure. So again, the root of the concern needs to be addressed first.
Now, you've been a businessman for many years, Blaine. Any thoughts on what needs to happen to our city to really help stimulate the economy, to create a better business and employment environment?
My gosh, I can tell you this, it's been a real concern. And yes, I've been a business owner here for close to 30 years. And there was multiple times over the past year, I know myself and many others have sat down with our accountants and our penny pinchers and saying, do I need to continue doing this? Because I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. There's been some different programs out there to help, but not enough to cover what losses have been there. So since Alberta is launched the Reopen for Summer, we've seen a prime example. I'll talk my own business is more in the first week of July than the whole month of June I saw for sales. So whether it's just something people go, okay, we're open, let's get back to business. I don't know what it is, Hal, but it's uncommon over previous years for July, a quiet month for myself, a quieter month than June, to have that happen. So I think with the opening of the economy provincially has made a big change. And I think that there needs to be programs out there to help businesses. That unfortunately mainly comes from the federal government and through the provincial government as well, some of those different incentives and programs.
Blaine, there's been a little bit of controversy regarding funding to your campaign and maybe some money coming in from out of town. Did you want to address that?
Absolutely, Hal. I need to start off by saying any donations that I've received have been local. They've been in Lethbridge or family members or close friends that are close to Lethbridge. There is no funding, let me repeat, zero funding coming from the current government that is in power or any government for that matter. That, for one thing, PACs you're not able to accept PAC funding anyways, and that is in the Municipal Government Act. And so in the Local Authorities Election Act, I have not received any funding outside of local donors or friends and family that may be just close to Lethbridge. But yes, there's zero funding coming from any other levels of government.
Blaine Hagan is one of the candidates in the Lethbridge mayoral race, and the municipal election is coming up on October the 18th. Blaine, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, Hal. Appreciate it.
On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless. Thanks for watching.